This is the primordial wilderness of the Everglades, the realm of the underwater world of Biscayne, the land of the big Cypress, the history of Fort Jefferson. These are the national parks of southern Florida. Warm and humid Everglades National Park encompasses a rich mixture of plants and abundant wildlife in a unique setting. This vast area is the only subtropical wilderness in the United States and is a blend of rivers of sawgrass, lush tropical growth, swamps, ponds, mangroves, and hammocks. Through the ages, this wilderness has evolved undisturbed, its ecology influenced by nature alone. Today, man's influence is having an increasingly important role in the future of the region. More and more visitors are arriving to see its wonders, yet agricultural pollution and urban development surrounding the Everglades are threatening its fragile richness. Everglades National Park is located at the extreme southern tip of Florida. It covers an area of 2,120 square miles. At the Entrance Visitor Center, visitors can obtain the information they need to assure a successful and enjoyable trip through the park. The Royal Palm area is a prolific storehouse of biological and scientific wonders. In the early morning, along the Anhinga Trail, the sights and sounds of this fragile web of life are as impressive as they are peculiar. The trail is the most popular in the park. Here you can mingle with the wildlife and enjoy the glades in all of their intimate detail in an area that is appropriately named after the unique Royal Palm. The ever-present American alligator is the major attraction along the trail, especially for the visitor with a camera. The Anhinga Trail is at once enjoyable and educational, with an excellent paved trail and boardwalk. It is aptly named for the frequently seen anhinga, also called water turkey or snake bird. They are not adverse to the visitor at all and are a permanent resident of the freshwater ponds and sloughs throughout the park. The bird is a delight to watch as it stalks, dives, and spears a fish, which it promptly flings into the air, catches, and then swallows. The anhinga characteristically loves to hang out its wings to dry after diving for food. Not only does it help them to fly better, but apparently helps to warm them. In this fascinating sequence, photographed over a period of little more than a month, you watch anhinga chicks grow to maturity and leave their sheltered nest to begin their own lives. The trail is a half-mile in length and is a place of unexpected happenings. You could visit for 10 days in a row, and each time, your experience would be different. The soft-shelled or pond turtle is found in deeper sloughs and are preyed upon by the alligator. The green heron is a rather secretive bird, but it can be found along the Anhinga Trail. The little blue heron has a purplish-blue head and neck in the adult stage. Populations of the long-legged, long-beaked wading birds have been dramatically reduced since the 1950s, from 2,370 nesting pairs of wood storks to 375 pairs in the late 1980s. A rustic raised boardwalk carries the visitor above the sea of sawgrass marshland. Anhinga Trail is located in the Taylor Slough, one of the two slow-moving freshwater marshy rivers in the park. The star citizen of the Everglades is the alligator. He is the reptile that visitors to the park are most interested in seeing. His importance to the ecology of the region cannot be overemphasized, for without him, the park would be an entirely different place. During times of high water, they are dispersed throughout the Everglades. Once hunted to near extinction, alligators are now protected as a threatened species. The Anhinga Trail and other sites near the main park road provide ready access to observe the varied bird population. This bird is the endangered great white heron, distinguished from the common egret by its larger size and yellow legs. It stalks its prey slowly and methodically. The much smaller purple gallinule is one of the most fascinating waterfowl found here. Its bright, colorful plumage combined with its extremely large yellow feet catches most visitors' attention quickly. These feet enable it to easily walk across lily pads. This stately bird is the great blue heron. It and its cousin the great white are the largest wading birds in the park, with wingspans of about 6 feet. The common gallinule is a cousin to the purple gallinule and is distinguished by a red and yellow beak. The chief food of the adult alligator seems to be garfish and turtles, but any bird or small animal straying close to a hungry alligator is asking to be added to the bill of fare. Larger animals and birds such as this blue heron are not at frequent risk from the alligator, as gators feed only once or twice a week. During the mating season, the bellowing of the alligators adds a new note to the sounds of the swamp. At this time of the year, male alligators roam the glades seeking a mate and can become very territorial and defensive. The mating season occurs in April and May. The female then builds a nest consisting of a mound of mud and rotting vegetation, lays her eggs in a cavity in this mound, and guards them until they hatch, usually in late summer or early fall. Hatchling gators average about 10 inches long. They grow at the rate of almost a foot a year for the first few years and then grow more slowly. They become adults in about 6 to 7 years. They live about 35 years in the wild and continue to grow throughout their lifetime. The large males in the park may reach 12 to 13 feet. There are many smaller creatures to be found here, including butterflies. The tropical zebra butterfly is found throughout the Everglades. Nearby is the circular 1/2 mile Gumbo Limbo Trail. It is named after the Gumbo Limbo tree. Much of the trail winds its way through a hardwood hammock or tree island, a jungle-like grove of tropical and temperate trees and smaller plants located on an area of higher ground. The strangest of the hammock plants is the strangler fig, which can begin as an epiphyte at the top of a nest tree, then send roots to the ground, eventually enveloping and killing the tree. Air plants have severed all connections with the ground and have taken to the air to form aerial gardens in the trees. They are not parasites, but epiphytes, using the host tree only for support. Florida's slash pine forests once covered extensive areas of Florida's southern landscape. The pine lands of the Everglades contain some of the largest remaining stands of these trees. The Pinelands belt can be thought of as a rocky mountain ridge which is higher than other areas in the Everglades, although only about 4 feet higher than the surrounding regions. This ridge is rarely underwater, hence the pines survive here. Beautiful Pine Glade Lake, which is a borrow pit or man-created lake, sparkles under a bright blue sky. A network of interconnecting trails runs through the Pinelands. Rangers lead nature walks through this unusually diverse pine forest. They also provide interpretive talks and answer any questions that the visitor may have. About 250 kinds of plants, including 30 found nowhere else on Earth, grow in the Pinelands. Most snakes in the park are harmless, although there are 4 poisonous varieties found here. This one is a garter snake. The red-shouldered hawk is the most commonly seen bird of prey in the park. Its principal foods are snakes, frogs, mice, crayfish, and sometimes young birds. The ligulous tree snails found here are among the most interesting and beautiful in the world. They grow to a length of 2 to 2.5 inches and feature a wonderful and seemingly endless array of bright patterns. Because of their beauty, they have attracted collectors for many years. But they have become increasingly rare, with some species disappearing completely with the recent wholesale clearing of hammock vegetation. Now, however, they are protected by federal law in the Everglades, and their future appears secure in this region at least. Insects constitute one of the largest life groups within the park. Their numbers are infinite, and the species seemingly endless. Their life cycle, as is most wildlife within the park's environment, is determined by who is the predator and who is the victim, as this dragonfly is about to discover. The yellow-bellied sapsucker is a common woodpecker found throughout the area. The young great blue heron retains the light gray color of its youth. An Everglades spider spins its web awaiting its next victim. There are 7 different kinds of freshwater turtles within the Everglades. It is easy to see why the venomous water moccasin is more popularly called cottonmouth. These surviving pine forests are surrounded by areas that are underwater most of the time. They survive because they are above these waters. But there is also another element that ensures their survival: fire. Fire is usually thought of as destructive to forest vegetation, but that is not true. The pines that grow in the park have a natural adaptation to fire. Fire actually helps the pines survive. It destroys competing vegetation and exposes the soil that the seedlings need to grow in. Without fire, hardwoods would eventually take over the pine forest. West of the Pinelands is the Paheoki Trail, a boardwalk trail that leads to an observation tower offering a view of the vast river of grass. Along the way, visitors enjoy glimpses of various Everglades creatures. The Seminoles called this area Paheoki, meaning grassy waters. These sawgrass prairies are the dominant feature of southern Florida. Here, a freshwater river that looks like a river of grass, 6 inches deep and 50 miles across, flows slowly and imperceptibly seaward on a riverbed that slopes ever so gradually to the southwest. Hammock designates a tree island that may be only a few feet higher than the rest of the limestone base. It will be occupied by a small forest of tropical hardwoods and palms. An area just a few inches lower may remain wet even in the dry season. This will support stands of dwarf cypress trees such as these. A tricolored heron supports a long and slender bill as it overlooks beautiful Sisal Pond. A group of curious black vultures observe from the top of a cypress tree. The best known of the glade hammocks is mahogany hammock. Generally, hardwood hammocks such as these develop only in areas protected from fire, flood, and saline waters. A boardwalk trail in this lush tree island leads the visitor past the giant mahogany tree for which the hammock was named. Now, because of Hurricane Donna, it is a dismembered giant. The cooler, damp environment of a dark jungle-like forest, the twitter of small birds, the webs of the golden orb weaver spider suspended far overhead, the beautiful, colorful tree snails, brings to each visitor the feeling of entering another world. A thrilling adventure awaits the daring visitor who elects to take a ranger-guided walking tour to a cypress dome. Here, something new and exciting awaits almost every step. Birds are but one of the interesting creatures to be found here. This barred owl is chunky with dark eyes. They love wet and swampy areas such as the Everglades. They also can be difficult to approach, so stealth is required. This ranger displays the wing of a barred owl to demonstrate its silent method of flying. In addition to hardwood hammocks, there are 3 other types of tree islands in the Everglades. They are bayhead, willowhead, and cypress head. The cypress head is popularly known as Cypress Dome because the taller trees usually stand in the center, giving the tree island a humped or domed appearance when viewed from afar. The cypress domes usually occupy shallow ponds, while both bayheads and willowheads are usually found on slight elevations or areas of peat soil. High in the swaying branches of a cypress tree is a red-shouldered hawk. The name is derived from its reddish shoulders. Its flight is characterized by several quick beats, followed by a glide. A menagerie of air plants are found here. Most common are orchids and bromeliads. If you venture into a cypress dome, it's best to watch your step. Now it is the dry season. The waters in the dome have receded. Months earlier, our group had waded through the same spot. Only now can you see a real gator hole with its attendant alligator. The alligator is frequently referred to as the keeper of the Everglades. He is indeed the most important animal within the park. Without him to keep the water holes open, much of the life here would die during the dry season. With a sweep of his powerful tail, he constantly scours and dredges out the shallow ponds near the center of these cypress heads. Mud and debris are piled around the edges to retain even more water during the coming dry season. And the water within these holes has a plentiful supply of fish to feed the alligator during his stay. Unlike hammocks, which occupy elevated areas, cypress heads or domes occupy depressions in the limestone bedrock, areas that usually remain as ponds or wet places during the dry season. The bald cypresses here shed their needles in winter. These decay, forming acids that dissolve the limestone further. Thus, these trees tend to enlarge their own ponds. As the ponds are deeper in the middle, the larger trees grow in the center of the head and the smaller at the outer edges. During an extended drought, even the best efforts of the gator may not be enough, and the gator hole dries completely, leaving a residue of dead and dying fish. The canoe trails are extensive in the Everglades and can be one of your most exciting adventures. The Wilderness Waterway twists 99 miles through expansive marine and estuarine areas of the park. These areas harbor almost every type of marine organism found in the Caribbean. Mangroves line the trails, which include Noble, Hells Bay, 9 Mile Pond, West Lake, and Bear Lake trails. To wander these secluded water corridors is an experience to be long remembered. On the Noble Hammock Trail, which is arrived at through a mangrove swamp, the visitor may wish to step ashore on the hammock and explore its dense jungle growth. Larger creatures such as birds, sea turtles, many species of fish, and the endangered manatee are attracted to these waters because of their abundant food supplies. On trails like Hell's Bay, the National Park Service has supplied chickees for overnight camping, including chemical toilets. Westlake, near Florida Bay, offers a self-guided boardwalk tour over the brackish waters of a distinctive mangrove swamp. There are 3 different types of mangroves in the park, but the red mangrove is the most common and is easily recognized by its arching, stilt-like roots. These durable trees help anchor Florida's hurricane-ravaged shoreline. The sun rises over the early morning fog of Mrazek and Eco Ponds in the southern portion of the park near Flamingo. Despite the fact that most visitors are overwhelmed by the sheer numbers and varying species of birds here, we should not forget that 90% of the bird population of the Everglades National Park has been lost due to man's carelessness. Thus, what we see is only a remnant of what was one of the great wildlife spectacles of the North American continent. But even today, the visitor marvels at this fantasy-like display of waterfowl. There seems to be a complete change of birds every few minutes. A common egret catches a small fish and then flies away. To land gracefully in another part of the pond. A snowy egret grasps a plant stump, while the gators watch all the activity with greedy eyes. Other common egrets continue their search for food. While a male snowy egret displays his graceful plume to attract a female. A white ibis searches for food with his large, curved bill. The beautiful roseate spoonbill lands gracefully with his 50-inch wide wings. His peculiar bill is swung gracefully back and forth through the water as he feeds. Wood storks enjoy their meals. As another of his fellows with his long black legs lands nearby and begins to feed. Egrets and white pelicans cover Coot Bay in a feeding frenzy. This is a bird watcher's paradise, for there is no other place in America that offers so many different and fascinating birds in one area. Flamingos occasionally visit North Florida Bay, but are rarely seen by visitors. 38 miles after entering the park, the visitor arrives at Flamingo, the southern terminus of the park highway. This was originally the small fishing village of Flamingo. Today it is a center for park ranger interpretive activities, a marina, a visitor center, and many other excellent facilities. A sleek osprey surveys his domain. Ranger-guided canoe tours are a favorite pastime on Florida Bay, with excellent ramp facilities at the marina. Sports, fishing, and boating are very popular here. But one of the oldest activities is still the most popular, known locally as mud raking. It involves wading into the bay knee-deep on ranger-guided expeditions to discover small creatures from the bay bottom. The children are always delighted to catch the little hermit crabs that are so numerous here. After a collection has been gathered, a ranger sits down with everyone, identifies their finds, and explains the small, fascinating creatures such as crabs, seahorses, and small fish. Several tour boats offer bay excursions leaving from Flamingo. The Bald Eagle is one such boat. These cruises enable the visitor to have a close-up look at the beautiful sights of sparkling Florida Bay. Shark Valley is located in the northern portion of the Everglades in the midst of the Great Shark River Slough. Its vast flow of shallow, slow-moving fresh water empties directly into the Gulf. You may hike, bicycle, or take a ranger-guided tour on a tram which follows the 15-mile Loop Road Drive. A visit would not be complete without a stop at the large observation tower. Here one can view the high expanse of the Everglades, and it is also a good wildlife observation point. Rangers on the tram tour are available to answer questions at this stop. Alligators, egrets, herons, snakes, turtles, fish, otters, and even the wood stork are often seen in this area. The view from the tower is spectacular. Hammocks dot the sawgrass-covered river of grass. Adjacent to Shark Valley is the 2,400 square mile Big Cypress National Preserve. Some of the largest and oldest bald cypress trees in the United States are found here, with some of the giants having a girth of 25 feet and a height of 130 feet. Big Cypress functions as a buffer for the Everglades, serving to filter and store fresh water, the lifeblood of the glades. Uniquely adapted plants and most interesting mammals are found in this vast expanse of marshes, sandy beaches, and dense forests. River otters are among the park's most interesting animals. They can reach a length of 4 feet and weigh as much as 30 pounds. They're accomplished swimmers and highly effective water predators, feeding on fish, snakes, birds, and turtles. Other predators and more friendly critters are found here also. The Everglades have been repeatedly ravaged by hurricanes, especially since the Great Storm of 1935. The Big Cypress area receives more than 50 inches of rainfall, as does most of southern Florida. A quick summer storm is a drenching spectacle. While filming in the Everglades, our photographer, Russ Finley, had this rare encounter with a Florida panther and her 2 cubs on the old Ingram Highway near Royal Palm. It is estimated that fewer than 30 of these vanishing creatures are left in Florida. The sighting of the cubs, however, is a hopeful sign. If life hangs by a thread in the Everglades, that thread is clean, fresh water. It appears to be everywhere. But man has blocked its free flow into the park and degraded its quality with huge agricultural developments in the north and the ever-increasing water demands of metropolitan Miami. The park has already been seriously affected, its ecology irrevocably damaged, leaving the Everglades struggling to survive. This survival depends now on the careful management of water resources by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and other agencies. Biscayne is the largest marine area administered by the National Park Service. It is located 21 miles east of Everglades National Park and contains the undeveloped northern Florida Keys, intermingled with living coral reefs and undersea life. Elliott Key is the largest island in the park, its harbor a favorite area among boaters. A visitor center is located here along with most visitor facilities. A campground accommodates the visitors on a first-come basis. A nature trail and boardwalk crosses the island, winding its way through a hardwood hammock. There are many recreational opportunities here for water sports, including swimming, sailing, fishing, boating, and windsurfing. Fringing these islands are the unique salt-tolerant mangrove trees. Biscayne National Park contains some of the world's finest stands of mangroves. Their long and weirdly shaped roots creating intricate patterns as they plunge beneath the waters of the coastline and bays. A trip to the Keys most likely will begin at Convoy Point, on the mainland, where the main visitor center for the park is located. Here, the visitor can arrange transportation to Elliott Key. Elliott Key Harbor is usually abuzz with activity as boats from near and far enter and leave the facility. Certainly, one of the most exciting trips that a visitor can take is the glass-bottom boat trip to the coral reefs. The park ranger will single out points of interest such as the manatees. These docile creatures have become endangered partly because of their favorite pastime of floating lazily just under the water's surface, resulting in inflicted injuries. Notice the propeller scars on this manatee's back and tail. Each glass-bottom boat has a large well with windows that enables the visitor to peer into the sparkling clear water of Biscayne's underwater world. Major resources in Biscayne are the living coral reefs, swarming with life and inundated with light and color because of the shallow waters. Brilliantly colored tropical fish and other curious creatures populate the reefs. Brain coral and elkhorn coral are the most common. The appearance and behavior of the sea creatures are as exotic as their names. Stoplight parrotfish, finger garlic sponge, goosehead scorpionfish, princess Venus, peppermint goby. Strange animals inhabit the coral. Strong currents exist in many areas produced by wave action and channels. Brain coral display intricate and puzzling designs. Snorkeling and diving are very popular. Adams Key lies south of Elliott Key and has public docks, a visitor center, and other public facilities. A caretaker's residence remains from the Coco Lobo Club of the 1930s, now being used as ranger quarters. An old casino that was used in earlier times has been converted for use by school groups. The island offers a nature trail, picnicking, and restrooms, but no drinking water. To the north, Sands Key has a man-made keyhole-shaped harbor. Also within Biscayne National Park is Boca Chica Key. In view of Miami, it gives the feeling of tropical island isolation. An ornamental lighthouse adds flavor to boating, camping, and picnicking. In earlier times, all of the Keys were a popular operation area for pirates. This cannon gives us all a reminder of those distant days. Excellent mooring is available for private boats. About 70 miles west of Key West lies a cluster of 7 coral islands called the Dry Tortugas, which, along with surrounding shoals and waters, make up Fort Jefferson National Monument. The islands were discovered by Ponce de Leon in 1513. Their central feature is magnificent Fort Jefferson, the largest of the 19th century American coastal forts. Many treasure-laden ships fell prey to pirates who used the islands for a source of food and anchorage. Not until 1821 were they finally driven out. The fort can be reached only by boat or seaplane. It is staffed by Park Service personnel and self-guided tours are available. Rangers will be happy to answer all questions and supply information. A ranger explains that the construction of Fort Jefferson was begun in 1846, and although the work continued for almost 30 years, it never was fully completed. The immense walls are 8 feet thick and stand 50 feet in height. Its 3 gun tiers were designed for 450 guns, and the fort was large enough to garrison 1,500 men. It was originally conceived to protect American Gulf shipping lanes from a hostile England and Spain. But by the time the Civil War began, the fort was only half completed and gunless. The first lighthouse erected on the islands was here at Garden Key. The present lighthouse was constructed in 1875. It stands on the wall that surrounds the fort and was built to guide mariners entering Tortugas Harbor. The mighty fort wall is surrounded by a wide moat that was designed to protect it against heavy seas and enemy landings. Excavation of the moat was not completed until 1873. Six cannon from each adjoining bastion could be simultaneously aimed on the drawbridge in case of an enemy attack. The gun rooms were called casemates. There were 303 of them. Constructed with thick outer walls and vaulted ceilings, they offered maximum protection. Inner casemate sides remained open for ventilation. 8 and 10-inch smoothbore cannons were standard armament then, and 10-inchers could shoot 128-pound cannonballs a distance of 3.5 miles. The fort was designed to bring maximum firepower against any ship. This is the parade powder magazine. Designed as a central storage area for cannon powder, it was very strongly built. Near the powder magazine lies the ruins of the soldiers' barracks. Destroyed by hurricanes and neglect, it was a large and handsome building intended to house 1,000 men. Construction began in 1861, but ended in 1871 before completion. The Civil War spurred the North to finish and arm the superfortress. Soon, 68 guns were in place, but not a shot was fired during the entire war. In fact, Fort Jefferson became a military prison in 1861. Its population swelled when President Lincoln commuted the death sentence for deserters into imprisonment at the fort. Among the prisoners was the famous Dr. Samuel A. Mudd, who set the broken leg of John Wilkes Booth, Lincoln's assassin. He performed heroically during yellow fever epidemics at the prison and was pardoned in 1869. However, the Tortugas Islands are far more than a monument to man's ambition and folly. They have long been known to be a refuge for thousands of tropical and subtropical oceanic birds and animals. Annually, thousands of sooty and naughty terns nest on nearby Bush Key. A continuous procession of migratory birds can be seen on these islands, which lie across one of the principal flyways between the United States, Cuba, and South America. The dry tortugas support a variety of marine life, but they also offer one of the most beautiful diving locations in Florida. There are over 100 square miles of living coral and a guaranteed visibility of 80 to 100 feet year-round. 16 reported wrecks dot the shallow waters. One of the favorites is a 250-foot steel-hulled British sailing ship off the southwest point of Loggerhead Key. It is estimated to be over 100 years old. She's broken in half and lies in 30 feet of water. Many schooling fish make their homes here, including thousands of colorful tropical fish. The warm, shallow waters ensures ideal conditions for the development of coral reefs. The true builders of coral are small, primitive animals called polyps. Over the years, these living polyps have formed coral even over the hulls of the sunken ships. Rescued from oblivion at the last possible moment, Fort Jefferson stands today a remote but proud part of America's national heritage. The Everglades, Big Cypress, Biscayne, Fort Jefferson. These priceless parks represent many things to many different people, but they all have a common bond. They are endangered. Fort Jefferson is eroding away in the face of hurricanes and trade winds. The Everglades, Big Cypress, and Biscayne are threatened by another force, man and his insatiable appetite for growth and development. The United States has designated all as national parks and preserves to protect them and their animal inhabitants. But there is no guarantee that they will survive. Only human concern and careful management will accomplish this for ourselves and future generations.